Hey everybody. I have had requests for some more videos, shockingly. So I'm going to try to do one every 2 weeks if possible. So I kind of planned out a format for this so that I'm not just, randomly doing stuff. So I'm going to start out with any whips that I might have, and whip is work in progress, any finishes, and then any FFOs that I might have. So right now I have my current whip, which is my Michael Jackson whip that I have titled The Master at Work. And he's going to take a while to get finished, but I have made some progress. I didn't get to stitch a whole lot last week because last week was craziness. And somehow we survived it. So I will show you what I have done, and I'm working on one page at a time in my chart. And what I'm doing is, because there's so much black color in there, I have filled in the black, and now I'm going back and filling in the color. So this is where I am right now, and I am filling in the color. Here's what I'm working on right now, and I'm going to fill in the color on the edges here and then work my way in. This is the last part of his face, of course, and then this is his microphone, and then his gloved hand where he's holding the microphone. So with the gloved hand, it requires white. I'm not going to go with that call for color. His glove, people wanted to say that he had sequins on his glove, but he actually had rhinestones that were sewn onto his glove, which created that sparkle effect when he moved. So I'm going to use what DMC has a thread called Etoile, and it has built-in little sparkles. And so I'm going to use the white Etoile for where the white should go, and that way his glove will have just this little hint of shimmer to it. I do want to try this one thread that I was introduced to. There's a lady named Jean Farish. She does Flosstube videos, and she also is a cross-stitch designer. She has her own website, and now she started Flosstube probably back in November of last year. So I really enjoy her videos because she does a lot of teaching. She really focuses on people who are just beginning to cross stitch, or those who cross stitched about 20 years ago and are just coming back to it. But even though I know a lot of the stuff she's taught, she introduces some things that maybe I hadn't thought about before. So it's always interesting to learn from her. So I thought maybe I would try the Cosmo thread and see if that's any better than DMC. Both of them are supposed to be color fast, which means that when you are washing your fabric, washing your piece, the color should not run together, which would be, especially if it happened with this, would be a major catastrophe. So these are all DMC threads, so I'm just going to finish it out with DMC. But yeah, that would be a major catastrophe. But I think what I'm going to do with him, I'm not going to wait until I finish him before I wash it. I've had this is an ongoing project. I've had it for a while because I've had to stop working on it for lengths of time to work on other things, and that's why it's taken me so long. But if you do cross stitch or embroidery, anything like this, if you're using materials that you feel like you can't wash, you may want to think of another way to do that, because you really need to wash your materials. Even though, like, I wash my hands every time before I start stitching. That helps prevent some of the grime on here, but I don't use a scroll frame. A scroll frame is just what you think it would be, where you actually roll it onto a frame, and some people like to use it because it keeps you from touching the fabric so much. You're just working on like what you're stitching, and then you roll it. Because some want to use, there are some beautiful fabrics out there that are not color fast, and you can't wash them because the colors will definitely run and it will ruin your work. So they use a scroll frame. I don't use scroll frames. I use Q-snaps. I use hoops. When I get down to the very bottom here, a hoop or Q-snap's just not going to get it. When I get like this last little, that little bit down at the bottom, I'll have to do it what's called stitching in hand, which means that you're simply holding the fabric like I am now and you're stitching with it. I don't like to stitch in hand. I like tension in my fabric because I think it makes the stitches look better. That's just my personal opinion. And I agree with Jean Farish when she says there are no hard, fast rules when it comes to cross stitch. There are just best practices. And for me, I think a best practice would be just if you're going to do it in hand, that you hold the material tightly enough where your stitches are going to be even. One of the students in my cross stitching club likes to stitch in hand. I think the other one prefers a hoop. Okay, both of them are fine as long as you make sure that you've got some kind of tension in there where you can make sure that your stitches are even. But he needs to be washed. He has not been washed, and I feel like I really need to wash him before I do anything else. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put my needle back in, finish this particular thread, and get those stitches done. And then once I finish with that, then I will wash him and he'll be clean and then ready to go again. So he needs a bath. So we're going to do that. That'll be next because he's been through quite a bit. Okay, so there's that. Now, I have an FFO almost. I've run into a slight issue, which actually you might be able to help me with. I took my finish, which today was a total waste of makeup, and I wanted to do that because of my obsession with makeup. So I bought a mirror, and Steve was able to there were some decorative bars on the top of it, but they were connected in such a way that he was able to get them off. He clipped them with his tools, and he was able to remove them. Well, I got it decorated, and there's a craft glue that I use. Pardon me here. Let me see if I can find this. You can see this is so professionally done. Tacky glue is typically a good product to use for just about all of your stuff, and it does dry. The cap has come off somewhere. I'll have to put that cap back on shortly so it doesn't dry out, but it dries clear, which is specifically why I like to use it. However, I have never attached or glued anything to a mirror before. So this has been a learning experience for me. And I don't really like the way it looks. Everything else looks fine on it, except for that one part, which I'll show you here in a second. So I've got a lot of ribbon. I'm thinking about using that to cover it up, but the ribbon also has to be glued on, but you can't really see it when the ribbon, if it's attached to material, it's not a big deal. But it's just that this part was attached to mirror. So I know because this is a mirror, it's going to probably wreak havoc here, but so this is how it turned out. So what I did was I've got these beads. Let me find them. And they're simply attached to this plastic, and they have, it's sticky on the back. So all you have to do is just take one off and see it's just sticky on the back. Okay, see it's stuck to my thumb. And so I just took these, and these are the smaller ones, and then they had larger ones. These are the larger ones. And I put them individually on here all the way around. And the parts where you see where it looks slightly different is where Steve had to clip that bar off. And so I thought it turned out pretty well. And then I've got my little mirror up here that I put, and all of these other things, I put them on foam core. You've got some lipstick, a hat, some perfume. Top says Queen, and then bottom says Love Your Style. So all kind of just girly stuff, purposely girly stuff. And that went fine. But then when, excuse me, I glued, this is Northern Cross linen. So I glued this to the mirror. And as you can see, even though it dried clear because it's on the mirror, that's what it looks like. So I really need a way to cover this. And I don't know if I just need to put a ribbon all the way around and make sure I cover that. I mean, would that look right? Or do you have any other ideas about how I can cover this? I would like some input. So if you have any ideas about other ways that I could possibly cover it, I do have fabric that's not stitching fabric. It's just plain fabric. So I have that I can use as well. So if you have some ideas about how I can cover that up, it would be greatly appreciated before I hang it up. Okay, so there are those, my whip and my almost FFO. Okay, so then I've got some stash that I wanted to show you. I've got all kinds of stash. I've got more stuff than I will ever have time to finish. Even when I retire, I will not have time to stitch all of it as much as I would want to. So I will show you a little bit of that each time too. One of the ladies that I used to listen to on Flosstube mentioned a type of needle that she preferred over everything else, and she just loves this kind of needle. So I thought, I'm going to try that. So I wrote it down and I ordered it, and so far it seems to be a good needle. It's a little bit thinner than the needles I normally use, and I normally use it's typically, I mean, DMC is like the brand and they make good stuff, but this is from France. It's Bohin. These are the needles, and this is a size 28, which normally you would use with something like the 18 count that I was using with Michael Jackson. But these needles are tiny. They are little needles. I normally like to work with 24, even if my stitch count is a little smaller. 26 is a little bit bigger than this 28, but I don't always go by that. I typically like the 24 just because I feel like I can handle it a little bit better because it's just a little bit bigger, but it's not so big that it's going to make like big gaping holes in your material when you pull it through. And that's the concern, and that's why they have different needle sizes. So far so good. I like it. And they're not I thought, well, these are going to be so much more expensive, and they're not. They're really not. They're reasonably priced, so I was fine with that. And then I had ordered some stuff from 123 Stitch, and then I had to set the bag aside while I was doing some other things, and I completely forgot that I had all that stuff. So when I opened it up yesterday, it was like Christmas. So it was awesome. So I'll show you a few things this time, and then I'll show you some more next time. But and actually, and next time I forgot about it, a friend of mine sent me a little gift of a needle minder, and I want to show that to you, but I may have to wait until next time because this program that I use here on my phone to record these does not have a way for me to pause. And I just noticed that is really weird. I can't pause it, but it's okay. I will just leave that to show you next time. It's a really cute needle minder. Completely took me by surprise. I was not expecting anything like that, so I will have to show you that next time. This one that I bought, I like it because it's purple, and it also says Floss Boss. So let me put it a little closer. I just think it's cute. So I like that. And I bought Mirabilia. Mirabilia is, this is another cross-stitch designer. They focus mainly on, they're not fairies, but it's more like women in these different types of really pretty dresses. And some of them are more like fairy-like. They have these pretty hats and flowers and different things. It's just when you see one, you pretty much know it's a Mirabilia. Some of the others are not quite so iconic, but this one, I liked her dress and just the flowers and the look of her. But this is my first Mirabilia. So you can see her. Let me get up as close as I can. And I just really like her. I was really taken with her. So this will be the first Mirabilia that I will be stitching. And Mirabilia, it's really this is an envelope. They have an interesting way to package their designs, because you can take this out and it almost becomes like a postcard. And they are famous for doing that kind of stuff too. And I'm gonna slide this back in if I can, so I don't end up losing it. Or not. I may have to wait till after the video. So this is going to be my very first Mirabilia that I have done. But again, she's going to have to wait just a little bit until I've got to get Michael Jackson done. I promised myself I am getting him done before I dive into any other big projects. Okay, that's just going to have to wait now. Now I can't get it back in, so I'll have to wait for a minute. All right, that's just the way it goes. Okay, this other one is from the Stoney Creek collection, Christmas in the Woods. I don't do a lot of Christmas stuff, even though I enjoy Christmas. I'm more of an Easter person. I like Easter a little bit better. However, I thought these were just beautiful, and I love deer, and I love watching the deer on our property. So this is a booklet where we have this larger picture with the deer. And then there's a stocking, which I've never done a stocking before, but I may give that one a try. And then one that's a smaller picture. Make sure, there we go. Okay, so I've got those. So that's pretty much for my stash. And then I thought, well, I'll just give you a little crafty tips. I mean, I'm a teacher, that's what I do. So if you're not really into the sewing or anything like that, there are so many other crafts that you can do. And I really encourage everyone to have some kind of a craft, because I have just found it to be a wonderful stress reliever, and something that has really helped me, especially when all of the COVID stuff started to kick in. It was a wonderful survival tool. And so I like to encourage people to get involved in some way, shape, or form. So for a long time, this is many years ago, decoupage became all the rage. I mean, everybody was doing decoupage. I'm like, what in the world is decoupage? Decoupage is simply where you can take pretty much anything, like even the mirror or a box, a book, anything like that. And you can take pictures from magazines. You can buy little cheap storybooks and cut pictures out of them. And you take what's called Mod Podge, which I'm pretty sure everybody's heard of Mod Podge. You take your Mod Podge, and then I bought some brush applicators, and it's specifically by Mod Podge actually. So you have the little one and the big one, where you cut your pictures out and you put them on, you place them on your box or whatever you have, however you want. And then you take the Mod Podge, you actually put it on the back of that to glue it on. And then you put the Mod Podge over it, you brush over it. So it acts as a glue, and it also acts as a sealer as well. And it also puts, this one I got satin, so this will give me a satin finish. They have a glossy finish as well. And they have matte. So it does all kinds of things at one time. And I bought this because I haven't been doing decoupage, even though I've done it before. But I would like to find some more interesting ways to take old things like boxes, or maybe things that I might find at the flea market, and repurpose them to become ways for me to finish my cross stitch. And so you can take this and do just different things that you want. You wouldn't have to do it with sewing or anything like that. One time I took, you can find these little miniature, they look like little miniature flower pots. You can find them at Michael's, get a bunch of them, they're pretty cheap. You can take a hammer and you can just barely tap the bottom of it and knock out that hole, and then you can take sandpaper and really sand it, smooth it out. And you can decorate those. You can put pictures and things on it with the Mod Podge, and then you have napkin ring holders. You know, there are all kinds of things that you can do with that, but just something to think about if you don't really have a craft or haven't been really crafty and you want to maybe try something new. This is something that's not a really expensive thing to do, but it's something that you might possibly be interested in. So just some little food for thought about some ideas of things that you could possibly do to be crafty and maybe a stress reliever for you. Okay, so I think that wraps it up for me. I hope that you are creative, be blessed, and I will see you again later. Bye, everybody.